We are delighted to be joined by the wonderful Timothy Zahn, who's been writing Star Wars novels for almost as long as I can possibly remember. And he's become completely synonymous with Star Wars and within the Star Wars universe. And he's responsible for introducing some really, really incredible characters which have now permeated themselves through to television and other things, which I'm sure at the time when he first wrote these characters never necessarily thought possible. So big welcome to Timothy Zahn, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Timothy. It's a pleasure to meet you. I also believe a belated happy birthday might be into account as well as a book birthday for this week.
It is, yes. Thank you very much.
No problems at all. So best wishes from the whole team.
Having a book launch on my birthday is something that I don't usually get.
Oh, fantastic. So that's really nice to know. So obviously, brilliant book out. I've read it cover to cover. I think it took me 3 days. Quickest I've read a book in a long time. Absolutely smashed through. And fantastic book. But we really want to start and take ourselves back really from Thrawn Ascendancy back to the Thrawn novel. And obviously Thrawn's become an unbelievably popular character over the period of the last 30 years. But obviously you've gone from a certain part of the timeline, so post Return of the Jedi, to now Rebels type between Clone Wars and the original Star Wars and New Hope. So how did you cope with the shift of Thrawn from old day or to newer times to back into the period of where we know him now?
Well, it really wasn't that hard. I knew the character very well. It's a matter of finding the location, the politics, the military situation I'm going to put him in, and then just seeing how he will react, how the people around him will react to him. I mean, the disadvantage of these newer books is in the original Thrawn trilogy, we had all the major movie characters, Luke, Han, Leia, Akbar, etc., Lando, all the crew, which meant I could have a huge post-movie sort of get-together. Now with these, we don't have any of those people available. The plus side is there's so little that's actually been written in this era. I think Rebels is about the only thing at the moment. And so there's lots of room to play, to bring in new characters, we know basically how the Empire operates and can just put Thrawn into those. And now with this new series, we're going out to the unknown regions and we're way off camera from anything else Lucasfilm has done. So there's about as much freedom as you're ever going to get in somebody else's intellectual property.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yes. And was that part of the brief that you were allowed to go off, or was that deliberate that you're going off and you know, going into the unknown regions and doing all this stuff?
The way it worked out is when I had finished the first 3 of the new Thrawn novels, I'm trying to refer to them as the Imperial trilogy because Thrawn in the Empire. What I would like to do is go past Rebels and take the story of Thrawn and Ezra, but that part is locked down at the moment while Dave Filoni decides what he's going to do. So Lucasfilm and Del Rey got together and said, okay, we can't put any more Thrawn stories there. How about if we go back and work on his younger years and bring in the Chiss Ascendancy? And they made it very clear to me that there are other people have kind of poked around the Ascendancy a little bit, but all of that is legends, and I could now build the Ascendancy, the politics, etc., the culture from the ground up. So this is one of those wonderful occasions where I don't have to beg, cajole, ask. They say, here's the project, do you want to do it? And the answer is always, heck, yes. So it was deliberate planning on their part, enthusiastic joining in on my part. And so now I'm getting to build the Ascendancy and a lot of the unknown regions culture.
The hierarchy of the Chiss Ascendancy is, well, the way I've put it into myself is a delicate, complex web, because obviously there's so many tiers to it, the 9 ruling families and all those type of things. Was there any real world culture that you actually thought about or mapped that on, or was it just totally your own creation?
I mean, nothing really. Everything a writer reads, sees, hears, goes into this hopper in the back of the brain, and then it gets mixed up and brought out in different pieces. So there's a little bit of corporation where you bring people in, you've got a hierarchy there. There's a little bit of the families and city-states of Renaissance Italy, the Borgias, de Medicis, and all of that. And just, I had set up the 9 ruling families and the way you can go back and forth between them and a couple of other things in the earlier books. So I had basically the 4 corners of the house. Now this is me filling in the walls, filling in the rooms, making it all work, coming up with a political setup that is stable but varies a lot. Very hard for an outsider to penetrate, to figure out what's going on for the very reasons, as you said, it's an intricate web. But getting to explore all of that, nothing Earth culture specifically, but a lot of bits and pieces of how humans have done things through the centuries.
Yeah, so a bit of a George Lucas tip back to older types of ways, like the nods to the samurai and all that type of thing.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And did you have a background yourself in these hierarchies and military and things?
I read a lot as I was growing up. I never had any formal training. My formal training is in physics. Right. So I can fake science, and I can have what I call guest appearances by physics in my books. Where some key plot point revolves on angular momentum or something like that. But no, it's just a matter of reading a lot of things. Just as I said, whatever you hear and see gets used later on in some form.
Yeah. We've touched on it there just briefly on tactical maneuvers in battle. Mm-hmm. The way you've written this book particular, it seems so effortless in the way you explain it, because you explain it through the dialogue of the character and so simply. Have you got any? Can you explain how you come to do that? Because it's blown me away in this novel. It's actually something that I commented on in my review, because I could actually envisage what you were writing very, very easily.
Mm-hmm. This is the advantage of writing a book as opposed to a movie. The movie, a battle can get rather chaotic. We've all seen fight scenes where, okay, what actually is happening? Okay, the good guy has won. I guess we move on. With the book, what I basically do is I start the battle, start with the tactics both sides will use, and then just follow I'm playing chess with myself. Okay, what does one side do? What does the other side do to counter it? And work it back and forth that way to make both sides smart. You hate stupid villains. They're boring. Make both sides smart. I know in advance which side is going to win this particular battle, so I skew things that direction. But the idea is always, okay, what will they do to be clever? What would our side do to be clever? And then it's just a matter of visualizing it and writing that visualization either in descriptive or in dialogue. But yeah, I'm very much want the reader to be able to see the battle in their mind, to be able to follow it.
Yeah, so that really does show in this novel particularly. You've shown it before in the other Thrawn novels, but this one particular really resonated with me for that reason. So that was a fantastic part of the novel for myself.
Okay.
I've always also seen Thrawn as the Sherlock Holmes of the Star Wars galaxy.
Yes.
Quick question: I know you're well read. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Would he be one of your favourite writers?
I read through the stories once every couple of years. Yeah. Holmes has always been one of my favorite characters. I discovered him in junior high or high school, and always liked what he did. I will mention there's one big difference between Thrawn and Holmes, in that Holmes was always very impatient with people who weren't as smart as he was.
Yeah.
If you are willing to learn, Thrawn is willing to teach you. He's willing to mentor you. He's willing to teach you how to think this way. Big difference, and I think it makes Thrawn a more accessible character, because he's not going to simply slap you down. He's going to say, okay, if that's true, what next? And teach you how to learn, how to do this.
In doing that, go on, Steve.
He's always had a nurturing side, even from the early books. Back in the early '90s when we were first introduced to him. So.
Yeah, then he was instructing Pelion, who then got to blossom in later of the Legends books. The Imperial trilogy, he's doing the same with Eli Vanto and Commodore Faro. Mm-hmm. And now he's got that same sort of relationship with some of his crew members, some of his associates. It's kind of a back and forth thing with Admiral Aralani. They both learn from each other. But that same, if you want to learn, I'm happy to teach you.
I also felt the bond between himself and Sherry, his Skywalker, was very fatherly at times as well.
Yeah,
as if he realised that she'd been taken away from her parents, and obviously with Thalius as a mommish, that was also a thing when he takes her away on his own and works with her.
Yeah,
and that is, again, it comes from the nurturing side that you've spoken about.
Yeah, there is a nurturing side. It tends, I think, get forgotten a bit because there's so much action and adventure, which is, it's not Star nurturing, it's Star Wars. So, you have to have a lot of action in there. But yeah, he does care about people on his own level, whether that's as visible as some would like or not.
Doesn't he worry though that in being so willing to teach, that somebody potentially will see how his mind works, and that will outwit him at some point?
That's always the danger. His mind works so differently than everybody else's. Not necessarily differently, but faster. He will see something in a battle, and you'll see in the book, someone else will take another paragraph or two. Oh, okay, I see that now. Thrawn's already there. So he's teaching people to play chess and to think 3 or 4 moves ahead, but he's already 8 moves ahead.
Right.
So yeah, there's the risk of someone outwitting him, but he's not teaching people he doesn't consider allies.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's very close guarded with that type of thing.
Yeah. And frankly, people who don't like him probably wouldn't want to learn from him anyway. So there's a self-limiting aspect to that.
Very much so. Obviously, the one thing that Thrawn's always had is a bit of an air of mystery. He's always been a aloof character, but as you say, nurturing at the same time. So he's got this real 2 parts to him. But the one thing that I really enjoyed as well was the actual origins of his insignia.
Yes.
So obviously now we know where that comes from. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to do that as part of the story?
Okay, 2 things. One was, as I was working on it, they already had the cover, and they had the entwined serpents logo on it. Well, this is before it shows up in Rebels on the Chimera. So, okay, this looks like it's going to be kind of anachronism here. I had already had him getting a ring from the Pakosh, I think it is. I'm 2 books past that. So I tend to lose some of the names. So I thought, all right, I'll just reinvent this ring to be that logo. And of course, since I've been given 3 books from the front, just because he only has a small interaction here doesn't mean there won't be more down the line. Ooh. So yes, this has been wonderful. And this is the first trilogy, Star Wars trilogy, I've had since the original one in the 1990s. Everything else has been pretty much a 1 book at a time. With the Ascendancy trilogy, I now get to start plots, plot threads, character arcs in book 1 and have 2 more books to complete them. I know where I can go. I've got the room to develop all of that. With the Imperial trilogy, I could set up things, but I couldn't leave a dangling character arc really, because I didn't know if I'd get to finish it. So I'm building the Pakosh and other people to intertwine all of these plot threads and character arcs and hopefully bring them to a good conclusion.
And when you started this, knowing all of that, did you plot out where you wanted things to go over the whole 3 books?
I had the end scene of the 3rd book actually in mind as I was working on the outline. So I had a general idea, but of course then started filling in details for book 1. You finish book 1, there's some things in there that I hadn't thought of until I got to that spot, put those in. So now that is going to affect book 2. And when I finish with book 2, I will have things that will affect book 3. So it all kind of feeds. This is in my house analogy. I've put in some rooms and, okay, do I want a wall here separating the kitchen from the dining room, or do I want a pass through, or no wall at all? And as I build the story and the details start settling into place, I can get more fine-tuned. So the outline for book 3 is on somebody's desk at Lucasfilm, along with book 2. And if we get everything approved at once, then I will have green light to go ahead and start on book 3.
Can I just ask if you want a proofreader for the 2nd book? I'm more than willing to do that for you.
My son does that professionally, so I've got that covered. But thank you for the offer.
Hopefully, his name's Steve Galloway, and we can lose one in the post.
There we go.
That's how excited I am for the 2nd book. Believe me.
Take it under advisement. Well, thank you. I'm glad.
I've been left waiting for more. I will say that.
I'm writing as fast as I can. I really am.
Sorry to put pressure on you, Timothy. Sorry. Obviously, we've touched a bit about Thrawn's personality. Sorry, should I say? I find him at times anarchic, and he doesn't seem to be everybody's cup of tea at all, does he? Really, as we've sort of like touched on. And
he's just one of those, but I love him. Yeah, he rubs people the wrong way because, again, 8 moves ahead. He sees what has to be done. He's not politically savvy enough to know how to work through that system. He's more like the tradition of Alexander the Great taking the Gordian knot and cutting it with a sword rather than trying to unravel it. So that's going to irritate people. That's going to get him in trouble. He has friends like Arlani and General Bakif who understand that, recognize his abilities, and will try to cover for him. But he's got just as many people on the other side who think he is a dangerous loose cannon and are determined to take him down.
Right. Yeah. Do you, do you play chess yourself?
Used to, haven't for a long time, but yeah. I remember my dad originally spotting me a queen. Then eventually got to where he was spotting me a rook, and then he wasn't spotting me anything at all. So yeah, right. But I enjoyed chess. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and play for quite a few years.
And would you, I'm getting, and I could be wrong, but the way that you write seems to me like a game of chess. That
yeah.
You sort of know where you want to get to, and you're plotting all of these different moves. Maybe eight moves ahead, a bit like Thrawn does, and then just filling it all back in.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah, the battles are like that, but the politics and where the characters are, it's very much a chessboard. Okay, this character is controlling the middle squares. Right. Okay, so that's the person who's going to be powerful. We're going to have to get around him. So yeah, there's a lot of chess in my plotting. And a lot of, it's the same thing in chess we call it consequence testing. If this happens, then what are the consequences? Well, this person will probably do this. This person might do that. That's the thinking 8 moves ahead aspect of it all. So it's a matter of, these are the characters, these are their personalities and their goals and their hopes and fears. Turn them loose into this storyline and see where they will take it.
In the new novel, Thrawn goes missing for 5 to 6 weeks while the Springhawk's in dry dock. But all of a sudden, we get him meeting Anakin Skywalker, and all of a sudden he's off, basically taking the route of Thrawn alliances.
Yes.
And that for me was like, honestly, I started reading this and going, well, I've read this bit before. And hold on. And then all of a sudden the penny dropped. But it was brilliant the way you put that 5 to 6 week gap in. Obviously, the ship in dry dock. How did you manage to twist that in? Because it was just like, that was completely unpredictable.
Well, part of that was just the fun of seeing that interaction from Thrawn's side instead of Anakin's.
Yeah.
But part of it was also that anchors this book in the timeline. Now we know where this book starts, where I know it's late in the book, so it's not like you had a whole lot of information up front, but that anchors it. That shows you exactly how this intersects with the other books. So I wanted to put that in, and it was just plain fun to see that from Thrawn's side.
Yeah, I think what you've also done as well is there will be some people who haven't read Thrawn Alliances who now know that, oh, hold on a second, that is a must-do. And actually, you could actually put down Chaos Rising, actually pick up Thrawn Alliances, read it through, and then pick up Chaos again. And it was brilliant, seamlessly done. And it was just like you could have 2 books on the go, quite literally.
Yes, you could.
It was a very clever twist.
Oh, thank you. Well, every interaction, the people approach it from different mindsets, different histories and such. That happens in real life. It's nice when you can do that in fiction as well.
Well, hopefully as well, it might bring up the sales again of Thrawn Alliances. Obviously, I say, James, I know, wanted to ask this about characters. Obviously, still being around now 30 years later from when you actually created them. Did you ever expect that for Thrawn and all the other characters you've created to have that longevity?
We weren't sure if they'd last 6 months, to be perfectly honest. I mean, back in 1991, no one knew if the Star Wars fans were even out there. They were very quiet. No one was saying anything. And part of that was there was no movies. There was nothing for them to glom onto. So this Heir to the Empire was a test to see if, I think on some level, to see if anybody even cared about Star Wars anymore. The answer was pretty much an emphatic, oh, yes, we do. So no, we were not, I will be honest, before Heir to the Empire came out, I remember lying in bed at 3 a.m, as one does, and wondering how many libraries there were in the United States. And if each one took 2 copies, how many sales could we make? Because we had no idea if anybody out there besides libraries would even buy them. So yeah, no, I was delighted that it took off the way it did. And even then I would not have predicted that 30 years later, they'd still be going strong.
I mean, a few years ago, you went back to that very first book and you did some annotations, and it was re-released. I think I speak for a lot of Star Wars fans. We'd love you to do that with the other 2 books in that trilogy. Is that something that you thought about?
The original plan was to do all 3. The problem was that the first anniversary edition didn't sell quite as well as the bean counters at Del Rey and Random House wanted it to. Okay. So the other 2 were put on the shelf. And then the purchase of Lucasfilm by Disney came about, and they announced no more Legends books. So that pretty much said, okay, Del Rey is not going to be publishing Legends. These are technically Legends books. So now there's no chance. And then Thrawn came into Rebels and became canon. Yep. So now these are a hybrid of Legends books about a canon character. Yep. So who knows? I'm game to do it. I would love to revisit the other 2.
Are they done? Did you actually start working on those? Or
no. Okay. I'd be delighted to do them. But until the people at Del Rey decide they want to, and Lucasfilm too. Lucasfilm has final say, of course, on this sort of thing. But no, I'm ready and willing. I would do the same thing I did with Heir to the Empire. I have an idea for an original story in the back of each one of these. not written, but I remember enough of the plan to be able to do those.
Mm-hmm.
So if I ever get the green light, I'm good to go with it.
Okay, I think we will push. We will
start a campaign.
We will start.
Well, to
Because
be perfectly honest, Lucasfilm probably listens to you guys more than they do to me, because I don't buy the book. You guys do.
yeah, no, fair enough.
I get mine for free, and I've got the original anyway.
Exactly. Over the last few years, there's been sort of an avalanche of Thrawn memorabilia and toys and action figures and things. Did you ever think about having your character turned into an action figure? Do you think that was? I mean, was that something you ever thought about?
There we go. A couple of examples there for you.
Yes, I'd have been happy if it lasted a year.
Right.
No, it's kind of surrealistic to see something I have created as an action figure or a T-shirt or someone walking around cosplaying him at a convention. Yeah. It's humbling. It's exciting. It's on some level it's a little bit scary because I'm still writing these books and I've got to deliver. There are people out there who are really expecting great things and I need to come through. Mm-hmm. And as a writer, you never know if you've got another book in you. Mm-hmm. You don't know if a book is going to be grab the readers, if it's going to fall flat. I do the best job I can with every book I write, but I never know if that is going to click, if it's going to be enough. So there's a little trepidation. Every Thrawn I see cosplaying, every time someone holds up an action figure like that, I'm reminded that I need to really come through because there are people waiting for this.
Is it hard to write Thrawn, do you think, or do you think he comes naturally to you now? 30 years on.
Oh, yeah, he's very natural. I know the character. I know how he'll react in any given situation. The fun part, aside from just having him kicking butt in battles, is to put him up against various different types of people. An Eli Vanta who really doesn't like all of this. This is wrecking my career. I don't like this guy. Going to, well, maybe this is interesting too. This is the best thing that could ever have happened to me. And people at the Ascendancy who are, some of them really appreciate his abilities. Some of them think he's a loose cannon and dangerous. Others who don't like him personally, but recognize he's a good commander and will follow him because that's their job. So the mix of Thrawn and people's reactions to Thrawn, I think, is what keeps the interest going, both for me and for the readers.
Mm-hmm. Just turning to Rebels a little bit, if we can.
Yeah.
So obviously the character's introduced into the TV show. Did you actually sit down with Dave Filoni and have a conversation about that, or did he just go with the character?
They basically just did whatever they wanted to with him. The saving grace is they understood him and they knew how to write for him.
Great.
And there are some scenes that people have said, that doesn't sound like Thrawn. And I can look at the same scene and say, yeah, that's exactly what Thrawn would do. And here's why.
Wow. Okay.
So they've done things that I wouldn't necessarily have done, but it's not breaking of the character. It's in line with how I envision him, and clearly how Filoni and the Rebels team envisioned him.
Yeah, I mean, Filoni's not one for just going off a tangent and taking a character and just using it for the sake of it. He's a real thinker, and he really understands the characters he uses, very much so.
And really, there's no point in bringing him in if you're going to change him completely. Just put some other character in. And Dave and those people understand that. There's no point in getting fans' hopes up and then putting somebody that's not Thrawn into it. It's a waste of everybody's effort.
So did you find out about Thrawn in Rebels in the same way we did, or were you told about that ahead of time?
I found out about 8 months before the UK announcement. Right. And had to vamp then for 8 months because I couldn't tell anybody about it, which was a lot of fun, actually. I learned how to not lie to people, but would not tell them the truth. I was working on the book Thrawn at the time. A typical question would be, are you going to do any more Star Wars books? And my answer was always, and it had been that way since the last one, Scoundrels. My answer was always, if they want me to do another Star Wars book, they know where to find me.
Yep.
Which is an accurate statement, but it's not an answer to the question, but nobody noticed.
Correct. I don't think you can get
I
away
could
with that
have
anymore.
I could have a career in politics, except I don't want one.
No, I think we'd all prefer you to carry on writing books.
Thank you, because I'd prefer that too.
Good.
Excellent. There was one thing I was going to ask, she's gone from my head. 2 seconds while I regroup. So, James, have you got anything for the seconds?
Yep.
There's something there.
So, obviously, you're now waiting on Lucasfilm to come back and say whether they're happy with book 2 and book 3.
Yes.
And all being well, when do you hope to start writing on book 2?
I have a book I'm working on with David Weber, the 4th of the Manticore Ascendant books. Ascendancy seems to be a popular word these days.
Okay.
But, we started the Manticore Ascendant before just Ascendancy or Thrawn Ascendancy came by, so nothing we can do about that.
Sure.
I'm waiting on David. I should have his part of that book finished in, I'm told, 2 to 4 weeks. At that point, it's 1 to 2 months for me to add the interstitial stuff between his stuff and the stuff I'd already written, make everything same style. And after that is done, I will be ready to start book 3.
Right.
So hopefully by early to mid-spring, that will be in the hopper, and then we'll see if they want me to do anything else.
Okay. Well, we all want you to do something else. So if they're listening,
thank you.
Definitely.
we would welcome you back with open arms. I mean, I think for people, especially of our generation, Steve and our generation, you sort of rekindled the fire that was put on a low burn after Jedi and droids and Ewoks, and you really did reignite all of our passion. And so we have you responsible for everything that's happened since '91 onwards. I was going to say and Jar Jar.
Every single penny we've also spent on memorabilia of any sort post 1991.
Thank you, and I'm sorry.
So what's next for you?
What's next is the Manticore and then Thrawn. I'm working because I was waiting on Del Rey's comments on book 2 and David Weber's finishing of his part of Manticore 4. I started a book on Spec, a sequel to one of my earlier ones. Okay. That's almost done, and we'll see if anybody wants to buy it. I've done a few short stories and novelettes in that same period. After the third Thrawn book, we've got 3 more of the Manticore Ascendant books. We'll just see what anybody's interested in. I'd love to do more Star Wars. I've got a few ideas for other things.
Within the Star Wars universe, or
several things within Star Wars. It will largely depend on what Lucasfilm is willing to let me do. I'd love to bring some of the older characters in. I'd like to do more of the 5 stormtroopers of the Hand of Judgment, the defectors who wound up being sort of a combination of Zorro and the Incredible Hulk, going around fixing problems that they see.
Right.
Talon Card would be a good person to bring in. He's like Han if he hadn't dropped into that cantina in Tatooine for a drink.
Yes.
Lots of other things. There's a huge amount of open space. The Star Wars universe is so vast that you could write stories in there forever without running into anybody else's stories. Yeah. That's one of the great things about it. I'd love to do more in the unknown regions. If Dave Filoni ever lets me do Thrawn and Ezra, I'd jump at the chance to do that. If he has other plans, maybe I could go past that, whatever his timeline, his story arc is. Lots of other possibilities, but I don't have to worry about it until early next year because I've got book 3 yet to write.
Yeah, fair enough.
At that point, we start nagging Del Rey and seeing what they're interested, start poking Lucasfilm, seeing what they're interested in and allowing me to do. And I think if they want me to write more, we'll find something we can all be excited about.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Just one quick one. Now we're in the era of Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Obviously, live action has become
Mm-hmm.
one of the things. If you could choose any actor out there at the moment to possibly play Thrawn, I would actually go personally with Benedict Cumberbatch, because the way he plays Sherlock in the BBC TV series, for me, is phenomenal. And I do see him actually adorned in blue, and I think he would look quite the part. But who would you like to see do that?
I get asked this question a lot, and the caveat, I don't see my characters in terms of face or voice. I see them as personality and the way they think, their attitudes and such. But I agree, Benedict Cumberbatch, for a while I thought he was probably a bit young, but having seen him as Doctor Strange, he can pull this off. And I've loved him in Sherlock very much. Other names that have come up were John Hamm, Jason Isaacs, Draco's dad in Harry Potter. And I have a soft spot for Jeremy Irons.
Okay.
Wow, that's some list. That's some list.
And I was even thinking of somebody like Jeff Goldblum.
I had not thought about him, but he's
a bit older, but he's a bit quirky as well. He played the Grandmaster in Thor, and I thought he did that very well.
I've watched a lot of Goldblum through his career and liked him all the way back to 10 Speed and Brown Shoe, which probably nobody remembers, with him and Ben Vereen, Stephen J. Cannell production. But he could pull it off too. I mean, basically any actor who can capture the essence of Thrawn would be able to do it.
The majesty as well.
All of the actors we've mentioned have the chops to pull that off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if they ever do anything, I think they'd be able to do it. Just as a side note, I think the voice casting of, I've lost his name.
Mark Thompson.
Rebels, Thrawn in Rebels.
Mikkelsen.
Right. I thought that was
Lars Mikkelsen, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Lars Mikkelsen. That was inspired because as a Dane, English is not his first language. And Basic is not Thrawn's first language.
Yep.
And Lars doesn't have an accent that will distract you, but there's just enough difference in the cadence to make it feel a little alien. I think that was brilliant, inspired, and I enjoyed his role in Sherlock as well, by the way.
Yeah.
So he could also play Thrawn. He's got the voice down after all.
It's true.
To be fair, I do have that. Whenever I'm reading Thrawn's part now, I have that voice in my head. I have that lilt to how I'm reading it, which is brilliant. I even had that with reading Anthony Daniels' autobiography or I Am C-3PO. I could hear Anthony talking, and it was really weird. I couldn't not hear him when I was reading it. It was really weird. It's the way I sometimes envisage reading books. And if they've got a popular character who's got a voice that I like, I always sort of go into that mode, and it just makes my reading more enjoyable.
It's something special we put into the ink. So don't start those rumors. There's nothing in the ink.
It's that lovely ink around the outside which has made this book a really something that I would like to see on future releases. So if we had a book about the Sith, we had like the red edging and stuff like that, that would be. But the blue for Thrawn was perfect.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And now that they know how to do it,
absolutely
economically, they may do more of that in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
For those who like the physical copy, to have something that's made a bit extra special by that is worth it.
Yes.
So thank you so much for spending some time talking to us.
Yeah.
Star Wars Thrawn Ascendancy is out now, book 1. If you had to summarize it in a few words, how would you summarize it, Timothy?
Thrawn rises through the ranks in the expansionary defense fleet, runs into some problems, finds an enemy looming on the Ascendancy borders that no one else is taking seriously, and deals with it. How's that?
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Concise and precise. Brilliant.
Where can people find you? If people want to reach out or follow you on social media, how can people get in touch with you?
I've got a Facebook page, facebook.com/Timothy Zahn.
Okay.
I don't respond to a lot of the the notes and things, because I think most people would rather I write books than all that. But I read everything that comes across.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. We love this book. We love everything you've done within the Star Wars galaxy, and we should remind people that you've done a lot of stuff outside the Star Wars galaxy as well, that I'm sure if people like the way that you write and your style will find very, very interesting too.
My style is pretty much the same throughout all my books. So if you liked the way the Thrawn books have been flowing and such, you probably will like the other things as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you in person at a convention or something similar at some point in the future, provided we're all safe to do so.
I hope so. We were in London once for a convention. Love to get back there sometime when borders open up and somebody invites us to come over. So hopefully we'll see you again sometime in the future.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Again, thank you very much.
No
you've
problem.
You've made Steve's I think his year, but
say after 2020,
Considering all the other stuff, I'm glad I could help a little bit with what happened. It was 2020.
My first ever interview for Jedi News was actually Alan Dean Foster.
Yes.
And to get hold of Alan I was dancing around the living room. When I got the email to say that I got the opportunity to be involved with this today, I was dancing around the office at work, and all my co-workers, there's not many of them around luckily at the moment, but they were going, have you just won the lottery? And I'm like, for me, yes, as a Star Wars fan, a Star Wars lottery to do this today is, it is very special to us, to us both, but it means a lot to me, especially from that book in 91 and changing, now being literature editor, as I hinted to earlier when we spoke off camera, was to see that book in 91 and not have much interest in Star Wars, to pick it up, as you said, and then to start reading it and go, you know what, I do actually still love Star Wars. And now being literature editor 29 years on for Jedi News and doing what we do, thank you. A personal thank you.
You're quite welcome. It's been, as I said, humbling and exciting to hear that these books have affected people, some of them greatly. And it is, I'm writing stories. That's my job. I'm entertaining. And if it goes deeper than that, that's just a wonderful, unexpected side benefit. And it's always wonderful to hear that the stories of people who were affected, the books change their life, sometimes hugely, sometimes even just it helped me get through that summer. It's things I never would have anticipated, and it's just an honor to hear them and to know I've been part of it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you again when book 2 comes out.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks very much.
Put it on the calendar.
Thank you, Timothy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.